Hi, welcome to the Outlet. You're here with Mac and Drew, and this is episode 4. Tonight we're going to be discussing Umphrey's McGee, the band with the worst name in show business. And here's Drew to introduce Umphrey's for you.
Well, that was about as much of an introduction as I was going to give, honestly. I was just going to say they're from Chicago, and they are dominating the live music scene. I would argue right now there are a couple bands out there that are hitting it really hard, and Umphrey's is touring a lot. They're at their prime. Their shows are really different every time you see them. They do really cool new things you don't see very often. So they're a lot of fun to see. It's a really cool band. You should go see them if you haven't seen them. But how did you first hear about Umphrey's?
Let's see, I think I was in high school. Pretty sure it was on a spring break trip to Mexico my junior year. My friend put on Anchor Drops, the studio version of Plunger came on, ripping guitar riffs, and a style of singing that had it's definitely not something you ever heard in the jam band genre, or it's not really, Brennan's voice isn't really classic rock appropriate. It's more of a it definitely has kind of a modern feel, almost some similarities to,
Almost like big bandy or jazzy.
yeah, it's definitely, he has a very bright kind of sounding voice, very very different than what I was used to, and that whole combination of their music really kind of took me to say, wow, this is they're pushing something new. It's they're pushing a lot of very complicated pieces of music, and but keeping it very groovy, very very entertaining, very danceable, even at their live shows. So how did you hear about them?
I found them on my own, actually, motivated totally out of getting bored. I say this very regretfully, but getting bored playing Fish riffs. I was like, what's next?
We've all been there.
I was like, what's next? I can't play Fish the rest of my life on guitar. And just out of that motivation, I found I heard those the first track on Anchor Drops, Plunger. I just willy nilly saw that these guys were touring live. They had some really cool gear. Just saw some pictures, so I got their album, and I learned that album front to back as close as I could, every one of those little parts.
That's impressive. That's a lot of little parts, a lot of really complicated parts.
And I still I couldn't do it all right now. I'd have to practice it again to get my chops back up to really play like that guy, like Jake does. But
they
yeah,
they must practiced a lot themselves to be able to play those songs night after night.
Definitely. Well, there are lots of really great videos on YouTube where you can just watch Jake with an acoustic guitar just kind of piddle around. It's really impressive. And you can kind of see how he brings this whole different improv jam dynamic to the scene that you don't hear in lots. He has like a classical or almost like a shred rock, kind of feel going.
He's like every background. He puts it all together.
They don't really have a genre when they play at all.
Or he'll go through a solo and you'll hear 10 different musicians from 10 different genres in that solo, all making some unique solo.
Yes. It's good stuff. Another one of the cool things about Umphrey's is they have a very different live personality than they do in the studio.
Very, very different, yes.
It's a lot like Fish in that respect, but I like when it comes to Fish, I would much rather listen to their live stuff because it's just like this bigger experience. But Umphrey's seems to exploit fully the live scene and the studio scene. So
they're very good studio musicians. They put a lot of work into their studio albums.
Definitely.
So their last one was at the London sessions, or did they release another one this last year?
I don't know, but those London sessions recordings at Abbey Road, is that what you're talking about? Yeah, those are really good.
That's I've listened to that album hundreds of times in the last year. Yeah, it's really cool to go back to such a famous studio. They were so excited to be there. They re-recorded a couple of those tracks, added some new ones, and then closed the session with a "She's So Heavy" cover.
Yeah, so good. So good. I would say that album and Anchor Drops are the two that I've listened to the most.
Yeah, those, and I really like Mantis as well. It's a really
Mantis is
prog
good.
heavy
I listen to
album.
Safety and Numbers a lot too when that
Okay,
came out.
yeah. They had a couple of flops on their live album, on their studio albums with like Death by Stereo, and they weren't happy with it.
Right.
I remember after that they were pretty disappointed, and they said, okay, we're gonna come back strong after this. We're gonna actually have this album. They felt like it was too many random pieces being thrown together. There wasn't like a coherent idea or anything.
Right.
So I think their next album they decided to make a rock album.
Cool.
They kind of did that again on the London sessions too. Very rock heavy, very funky.
Yeah. Which is a really cool realm for them to express themselves, I think. When you're already in that kind of jam scene like they are, and you get too jazzy or too trancey or too electronic or too dancey, you start to polarize everybody, I think. But
They're good at keeping a wide array of genres
Yeah.
in their music, saying very dynamic, very
Definitely.
diverse.
yeah, we were talking earlier about their song mashups. I think that's one of the coolest things that,
Oh yeah,
other than like musicians like trading instruments to me on stage, it just shows like how playful they are and willing to be a little bit ridiculous at their own expense, really, to make the crowd laugh. If the crowd is laughing and rocking out at the same time, like that's pretty powerful. They achieve that for sure, I think.
yeah. So every year at Halloween, their thing is they come up with new mashups. Sometimes they'll put their own songs into the mashups. Usually it's covers. They'll take 2 or 3 songs that are hopefully in the same key or similar time signature and switch back and forth between them. They'll sing one song's verses to the other song's chord progression.
Yeah.
Pretty cool how they do that. And they usually bring it all back together into something. It looks pretty complicated to do. They're all singing different things.
Yeah.
They're singing 2 different songs at the same time sometimes.
Yeah. It's fun to see a band like that do something. It's obvious that they're super talented and they're really creative too, and that just shows that they are. But when you watch them on stage, you've seen them a bunch. They don't look that. I mean, they're smiling a lot. They're having fun. Like they're really that whole scene is a really refreshing scene because when you see those guys having fun, playing really intense music, making it up on the spot a lot of times, and you compare that experience with like these mainstream artists that take themselves so seriously and have to rely on record companies or radio peddling their crap to just survive. It's really refreshing in that live scene, I think.
Yeah, they seem to really enjoy themselves, though at the same time that they definitely have to really focus when they play live because their riffs are so complicated and so precise.
Yes.
They also something unique to them that they've added into the whole improv scene. You know, every band who plays improv, you have to practice a lot together. I mean, you play in a band that does a lot of improv, you know that. But more than that, to really do something unique, you all have to be on the same page, and you have to be watching and listening to each other. And they took it a whole nother step further and added all these signals to each other. They have hand signals that are well, as dipping the guitar or tilting the guitar, taking a step back, doing a head motion like that. Little things like that mean something significant to the rest of the band, where they can all change on the spot. So they like to have multiple chord progressions going at the same time. That way they can switch back and forth between the two, which can create really cool drops. In my opinion, they can drop things harder than some of the electronic DJs because it's so natural the way they do it after they build these 2 chord progressions back and forth as they kind of peak the song.
Right. Well, they're able to be more reactive to the crowd too, I guess. Where if you have a DJ who's doing some big drop, like you said, who's just one guy who's got this pre-made thing already, he's just ready to trigger it. That's cool. But when you see a bunch of people on stage coming together and communicating in real time, and then doing it like at this moment that they're ready to do it, creating the music in real time, I think it's more powerful.
Yeah, for sure.
Much more powerful.
Yeah, and it allows them more freedom than some of the other bands in their improv sections because they don't have to, kind of slowly change a song in a different direction. They can, if they don't like where it's going or they want an abrupt change, one quick signal, and the whole band is on the same page, and all of a sudden the song is going in a different direction.
Right.
And I imagine they got some of that from being fans of Frank Zappa, because he would blatantly conduct his band. But I do think that was something that's a big influence of them. They've covered some of his songs.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see him, some of his live shows. He'll stop playing his guitar, and he's a conductor up there. The rest of the band.
Right. Exactly. There is some element of that too in the Umphrey stuff, because I've heard interviews of them saying that usually in a particular song that there is a leader. Somebody is the brain behind the song. So somebody is giving the cues, like somebody is carrying the weight as far as if somebody comes a little fast, a little too slow, they're looking at that person for that song. So
yeah.
And that's cool that they share the responsibility, because Frank Zappa, the guitar player, would do that in his band. He's just the guitar player, though. Like, some songs require eyes on a bass player, or some songs require eyes on a singer to give vocal cues, or some songs require eyes on the drummer, eyes on the whatever. But yeah, I think it's cool that they share that responsibility, because that allows the music to be a little bit tighter, and it just goes to show too that there's not. I mean, even if it's different behind closed doors, there's not a big head on the stage, some kind of drama queen. Like, it shows they're all really working together to make it a big.
Yeah, they talk about how they have to have big ears when they play these live shows to be able to, because often when they start a jam or in the middle of a jam, one of them will come up with a cool melody, and the rest of them have to copy that on the spot. So they really, you can tell that they have very good ears, and they practice a lot to be able to quickly copy those melodies.
Yeah. And how distracting, just to add, would it be to do all of that in the light show that they bring?
Yeah, they're very focused. Like, you can tell, in some of those, classic rock bands were famous for being hammered up there on stage, or all coked out and stuff. But Umphrey's couldn't do. I don't think they could do that if they were really inebriated, because they do have to be paying such close attention to each other.
Yeah, they definitely do drink some beer on stage, and
Brennan has his wine up there all the time.
Yeah, I've seen him drink his wine, which I totally understand, because my favorite thing to drink on stage is beer, and if you take a big chug of beer before you start singing, the whole time you're just like, like trying to sneak beers out the side of your mouth, or sneak burps. But yeah, that is interesting. The guitar playing, I think, is what really all brings it all together. Whether it's the bass guitar playing, or lead singer, or the lead guy, it all melds so well.
Yeah,
and then
Umphrey's has that intense, double guitar attack. And they're often copying each other's riffs or kind of harmonizing each other. Pretty unique. Not a whole lot of bands have been able to play with two guitarists. I think maybe like Allman Brothers. Not too many come to mind.
I wouldn't say with this precision, though. They're super precise. And the other thing, anytime people in the bands are tone hounds or gear hounds, it makes everything exponentially better. Jake and I can't remember off the top of my head. Brendan, yeah, that's right. They are so picky about the way their guitars sound.
Yeah,
and they all both have really nice guitars. They both have, if you've ever seen their gear videos, I think their premier guitar gear videos on YouTube, they have impressive pedal boards. They have lots of stuff. And stuff like up until very recently, I didn't know anything about, like buffers to control the, if you have a super long guitar cord, it changes the strength of your signal. The box you can plug into that changes all of that.
They have the steel guitar black box that they both use.
Which is what that is. Yeah. That's the buffer tone.
Jake says it gets rid of the woolliness.
Yes.
Sound. So when you hear them cover a song, say a classic rock song, you hear their guitar playing, you're like, wow, this is way cleaner than.
It sounds.
It sounds way better than the gear did in the 70s. Studio quality, absolutely.
It's like running it through a really, really nice preamp in a studio, and they get that sound live. And then, Jake gets that awesome tone, too, because he plays that really cool Fuchs amp.
Yeah.
which is modeled after the Dumble amp. Gets a real fat tone. That's what drew me to
He
those
does get a
bands.
very fat tone. He plays G&Ls mostly.
Mm-hmm. And Brendan plays PRS. He plays that Paul Tremonti single cut PRS, and is too embarrassed that it's a Paul Tremonti, so he takes the Paul Tremonti truss rod cover off and replaces it with a black one.
That's pretty funny. They get some really cool effects going sometimes in some of their jams, and I think they're using the Moger Foger delay pedal to get that. Sometimes you hear them. It's almost like the band has multiple synthesizers going.
Yeah.
When Jake will often get his going and play something really unique and kind of definitely has like a trippy rock element that adds that synthetic sound.
I know they have those Moger Fogers on the boards, but yeah, they do a lot of. I've heard them use ring modulators.
I was about to mention a ring modulator. Yeah, so
yeah.
I think they're maybe combining a ring modulator and the delay to get some of those synthetic guitar tones.
Yeah, very synthetic, like almost synth-like. Like I've heard a lot of filter type effects. Like I think they have one of those polyphonic octave generators on there, so they're using. I mean, every effect you can imagine, they're using it,
Yeah.
and they've got the actual physical pedal there right in front of them. It's not stored on a rack, run through this MIDI rig. It's like what if you plugged it in at home. That's what it sound like. Hopefully,
so we're kind of focusing on the guitar players because they often do dominate the mix, especially when they're playing these heavy riffs. But I think one cool thing Umphrey's does as a band is their bass player will often play a lot lower. I think he has a fifth string on his bass to not compete as much with the guitarist, and it adds these kind of booming low tones that I think helps really drive the music along.
Mm-hmm.
And their Joel Cummins, their piano and keyboard player, does a really good job of not competing too much when Jake and Brendan are playing these heavy riffs.
Yeah, that takes a lot of nerve as a good musician in a big band like that to choose, an aspect of the music that you're not going to overpower and intentionally take a back seat.
Yeah.
But it shows in the music, and there's a really cool connection between the percussionist and the drummer too. They have a really awesome dynamic, and they don't really overpower each other. It sounds like a dude with 3 arms more than 2 people.
Yeah, they have a great dynamic going. I think that really helps the danceability of their music to have the percussionist. But yeah, their drummer, Chris Myers, not only is he a very accomplished jazz drummer, he's also a great singer. He actually sings some of their covers and often harmonizes. He actually has a great voice to back them up.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's impressive to be able to sing and play drums. Not a whole lot of musicians have been able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The ones who have been pretty famous, like Phil Collins or something comes to mind.
Right. Yeah, none really come to mind off the top of my head. The Melvins. It's not really the same.
And they did actually, kind of the one member of the band who actually left was their original drummer, Mike Muro. He died a couple of years ago.
Huh. I didn't know that.
He was a great drummer as well. And they, I think they replaced him right before Anchor Drops, because I think the song Plunger was about them trying to decide what they're going to do. Because their drummer, their great friend, had just decided to leave the band to go to med school. This is before they were accomplished yet. But it led to them discovering Chris Myers, who becomes this fantastic drummer, and together they move into great success as a live touring act.
Wow. No, I had no idea. I had no idea that story. I knew that they had the same drummer since Anchor Drops, but
otherwise it seems that they've gotten along pretty well together. I'm sure they've had their petty fights and arguments like everybody, but they seem to have held it together. And that was something that a lot of bands, even today, bands struggle to be able to get along.
Definitely. It shows they have good chemistry on the stage, whatever they're doing. At least, even if they are fighting, it's not showing on the stage. It's not affecting the way they're playing. Because it is a mind-blowing experience every time I get to see them.
It really is.
I'm not trying to just, lick their boot or anything. But every time I leave one of the shows, it's like I didn't think that would be better than the last one, but I think it was.
Yeah. Yep. They
So,
do a really good job of keeping the energy up for the whole show. Sometimes you finish a show and you're like, wow, that was almost too much.
right? Yeah. Yep. You feel you listen to some song and they end it, and all of a sudden you look down at your watch and it's been 25 minutes. Wow. I didn't feel like 25 minutes.
They might have played a different song in the middle there.
Right.
A while. You've heard, like, through that course, you've probably heard 5 different chord progressions and a bunch of different transition pieces.
Right. That seems like that's something that they and Fish have in common too, is that they'll start a song and then instead of playing that very last chorus, they'll transition into another song.
Yeah.
That song is supposed to end. They'll end it with the chorus of the first song, and they take that idea, they stretch that as far as it'll go. They'll mash up 3 or 4 or 5 songs.
Yeah.
Different, and then end them like they'll have a song inception in their show.
Yeah. You can definitely see kind of the evolution of the jam from from someone like the Grateful Dead to Fish to bands like Umphrey's, and they seem like Umphrey's has taken what's been done and made it even more ridiculous. Mm-hmm. One really cool thing that they've done is the Bowl. It's structured like the Super Bowl or like a football game. It's 4 quarters plus an encore or overtime. And each quarter is different. It's a different theme, and the fans get to vote. You vote for some of it beforehand, and some of it is actually real-time voting. I got to go to one of these shows. It's quite the experience. That in one of the quarters, it was all improv, and you just texted themes in, and whatever theme popped up on the board, they'd have to try to emulate for 1 to 3 minutes. Really cool to watch them try that live and have to be on the same page. It looked like it took them a lot of practice before that show to be able to have a cohesive idea. They kind of have to follow somebody to lead that. And yeah, that's something where they're really pushing boundaries. Mm-hmm. I've never heard of another band doing something quite like that.
No, yeah, the guitar playing and then hearing that they just in the first song on Anchor Drops, Plunger, it's not a minute into the song where you realize that they're pushing the boundaries between, being really cool, driving rock and roll, and being kind of ridiculous music. Yeah. Just like way too many notes, too many changes. It like rides a really fine line, and it creates and releases a lot of tension really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
It feels kind of tumultuous. It's really dense jam music. It's cool. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Some of their we could probably talk about some of their influences. Obviously when you hear those crazy riffs, you're thinking often Jake is kind of emulating something from kind of Van Halen, throwing some Hendrix in there, they throw a lot of funk in there, a lot of kind of James Brown style or other numerous funk artist into it. Plus, they don't really sound like the Grateful Dead or Fish. They're definitely implementing some of their live improv type themes.
Definitely.
Definitely a psychedelic vibe to some of their stuff. Mm-hmm. They're big fans of Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
They like to get pretty heavy and aggressive guitar riffs.
Yeah, there's definitely a metal aspect behind everything, because that's one of the things that's so cool about the shows. Is they'll go from a real soft kind of jazzy thing to intense, like hit like the drummer smash, almost breaking a china cymbal. He's smashing so hard, like really hard metal. It's So they have I think a lot of that comes from Jake too.
Definitely, Jake and Myers, the drummer.
Yeah, Jake is obviously the one who I think has the most wide styling of
for sure
musical expertise.
I don't think I've ever heard of another artist with such a wide styling as Jake.
He's really, actually who he reminds me a lot of hearing him play acoustic is Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah, he has a lot of influences in the acoustic kind of classical type playing. He's taken lessons in that regard. Yeah,
those are guys with two totally different styles, but there's they're so creative just on their own. It's really cool when you can see just one person pick up a guitar and play something that's so interesting and full that you could put a microphone up to that person and put them on a stage by themselves and people would come and listen to it.
Yeah.
Just from piddling around. That's what Jake, every time I've seen him do anything solo, it's like that.
Yeah, and Jake spent a lot of time trying to emulate David Gilmour, Pink Floyd, figuring out how to so eloquently and slowly bend the string to get this exact, precise tone. So often in his solos, he'll play a wild, fast riff, and then all of a sudden he's stopped and he's playing some really slow bend back to a fast riff. I think he took some influence from Robert Fripp of King Crimson, just someone who just plays a really weird style. I don't think you could even pick a mode that Fripp plays in. To anybody from Zappa to Jimmy Page. He really emulates a wide style, and he puts those into each solo. You can hear all these different styles coming through.
Definitely. Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly who his biggest all of their biggest influences are, but you can tell collectively all of them as far as influences. The list would be hundreds of bands long, I'm sure.
For sure. And they do have some jazz background too. I know Joel Cummins likes to play jazz. He really likes Herbie Hancock, some guys like that. And interestingly enough, their bass player has actually taken lessons. I believe it's Kai Eckhard. Kai Eckhard is a very accomplished jazz musician who played with his last band he was in was Garage Mahal. They were kind of
I did not know that.
They're a really cool band. He played with John McLaughlin.
Garage Mahal is one of my favorites. That I think that Indian guitar player, was one of the heads of the music department at University of Indiana, I want to say.
Oh, really?
So they have some different ties into the music world, but wow, that album Blueberry Cave.
That's a great album, yeah.
Every single song is really, really good.
So you can hear some of that styling because Kai Eckhard plays a very funky, jazzy. He slaps a lot, and those are things that Ryan Stasek has brought to Umphrey's. And it's interesting that even to this day he's still pushing his musical boundaries.
Yep. Well, I'd never made that connection. I'm glad you said that. There's a great reason why I make these videos, I guess.
I cannot remember the lead guitarist of Garage Mahal. I forget his name.
Fareed Haq.
Fareed Haq, yeah. He's an incredible musician. I think he's Pakistani, actually. He kind of puts some of that influence into some of his playing.
He definitely plays... He does. He has a real bizarre... Okay, that's one of the coolest things I thought about that guy was that every guitar player at some point is on this search for this tone, for this perfect tone, and at least most people I've come across are, and I am. So,
yeah.
and what's that tone that everybody wants? They want to get that cool solo tone that's not too gainy, but's really sustainy. They want the best. They want the best of both worlds. That's the most fun thing to play, where you just hit a note and it feels like butter and it doesn't wane off.
Kind of like David Gilmour or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. He played through a Dynacomp, which is the MXR compressor, and some type of a fuzz pedal. If Fareed Haq turns that idea on its head, he wants a guitar that does the opposite of sustain. He wants to pick a string and he wants the note to automatically wane. If you've ever seen the Moog guitar, he did a demo for Moog for that guitar.
Oh, I gotta see that. Jake has done one too.
Yes, and it has a sustain capability on the pickups, and it has I can't remember exactly what they call it, but the actual sound of the note deteriorates quicker than it would naturally.
Okay.
And I hear a lot of that in Fareed Haq's playing. He will play stuff really fast and real staccato and almost not really in the time signature. It's just kind of improv a little bit.
I don't know if he actually plays sitar, but it kind of reminds me of sitar playing, and I think that may have been something he was emulating in his guitar playing.
Well, there's a song called "Bicycling in Bombay" on Blueberry Cave. It's one of the
Okay.
last songs on the album. And I think he does play sitar.
Oh, so
in one
okay,
of
so
the
he
songs.
probably grew up playing sitar. So
But it wouldn't
that's
surprise me
interesting.
too if he had one of those like electro-harmonic sitar pedals. You know.
So yeah, that's an interesting connection to Umphrey's there, and also Brendan Bayliss was highly influenced by. He really likes Stanley Jordan, if you know who that is, a jazz
Oh yeah,
guitarist who does all the hammer on, or he plays with both. He took
yeah,
like Van Halen's finger tapping and gave that a jazz feel almost.
yeah. Stanley Jordan is something else.
So that both Jake and Brennan sometimes implement that kind of finger tapping into their songs, but they usually make it. It's usually during a jam section, during a more kind of trippy, psychedelic, kind of slow
Right.
moving jam to give it a really trippy feel.
Hmm.
And that's a cool effect I haven't really seen from anybody else. It's kind of a unique guitar effect. It'd be difficult to copy that on a synthesizer.
Yeah. It's hard to come up with new ways to play the guitar. You know, I
But
see
they've
people.
certainly done that. Like, yeah, watching Umphrey's, you'll hear hundreds of tones you never thought a guitar would make if you go to a live
Exactly.
show.
And they're definitely harvesting as much knowledge as they can, as far as tone goes or how to play something different. So it's probably only a matter of time before they start stringing the guitars upside down, like all these new guys I see. Have you seen that where people literally have the high E string closest to them
Okay.
and string it backwards and play
Huh.
that way, and
Interesting.
you get this crazy sound. I saw two guitar players today that did it. I can't remember either of their names, a black guy and a white guy, but it sounds so cool. So it's probably only a matter of time before they start trying that too.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes I've seen Jake jump on drums before. 'Cause he actually has a background as a drummer. He's actually good. It's interesting because he plays in a very aggressive style of drums, kind of like he does guitar.
Uh-huh.
You can kind of hear that through whatever he's playing. He also plays a keyboard too.
I've never heard him play
He's
keyboard.
a well-versed musician. He says when he goes home, he plays less guitar, plays other instruments more. So it probably gives him some of his versatility probably comes from his background of playing
Yeah,
different
definitely.
instruments.
You definitely start playing an instrument better when you learn a different instrument.
Yeah.
Helps you approach it differently. That's for sure.
Okay, well, I think that will conclude our talk on Umphrey's tonight. Stay posted for more videos on Umphrey's and some of our other favorite bands.
Till next time.
Till next time.